This is Bob. Bob is on his first day of a dopamine detox. He's already reached his 15-minute time limits on TikTok and Instagram and is left with no choice but to have a productive day of work. But he can't focus. He's constantly distracted no matter how long he sits at his desk. In the short gaps between the almost unbearable cravings to pick up his phone, he does manage to get bits and pieces of work done. But because there's no urgent deadlines imposed by his usual procrastination, he slows down. Tasks that would normally take an hour take all afternoon. And by the end of the day, Bob has done less work than he usually would. And every second of his day was excruciating. And he gets ready for bed miserable, knowing that the next day will be just as soul-crushingly painful and empty as this one. Sadly, Bob doesn't yet know that trying to reduce screen time using willpower is like trying to eat soup with a fork. Instead, I've learned through years of failure that it's better to move the unproductive stuff rather than cut it out, whether that's texting, scrolling, and whether you scroll 8 hours a day or 8 minutes, this will apply. And then once you've moved it all, then you can start cutting it out a little bit. And you'll get more done by doing that than by having that 8 hours split out throughout the day. Now, it's obviously easier said than done. It's still going to be hard to work for 7 hours straight, but I'll get to that. There's a famous experiment where they gave little kids marshmallows and they're like, here you go, kitty, have a marshmallow. But if you wait 3 hours, you can have 2 marshmallows. But if you eat it now, you only get 1. And, most of the toddlers waited for 2 marshmallows because, why wouldn't you want 2 marshmallows? So humans kind of have it wired in us to be able to wait sometimes for a bigger reward. I think most people are pretty good at this. So if you scroll right now for 8 hours a day, let's say you go to bed at 10 p.m, what I'm suggesting you do is don't try and cut out any of your scrolling. At 2 p.m, so 8 hours before 10 p.m, you stop your work for the day. But before that, you don't do any scrolling or any texting. Maybe you text your friends once or twice, but that's it. So your day might start at like 7 a.m. and you go to 2 p.m. You've got 7 hours of pretty much uninterrupted work with breaks for meals and toilet, obviously. You're gonna get a lot done in that time. And then you got 8 hours of uninterrupted relaxation time. You don't even have to scroll for that time. You can go hang out with friends. You can, watch 3 movies. You can game. You can do whatever you like. So you essentially have like double the reward compared to if you just had an unproductive day where you got nothing done, but you somehow scrolled like half the day. So whenever you feel the urge to scroll or to whatever temptation you might give into, even if it's just, staring at your desk or if it's doing some less productive work. If you pause when you feel the craving and you remember, if I wait, I'm going to get double the reward at the end. If you do that, it will be a lot easier to resist. Now, this is still going to be difficult, right? This is not an easy thing to do still. But what you can do is you can increase your awareness of the benefit you're getting at the end of the day. So increase your awareness that your pleasure actually is doubling every time you resist it. So what you do is you journal just after you finish the work before your relaxation time. What you write down is basically anything to do with work that you're still kind of thinking about that's got you a bit stressed. You write down, I'm going to think about this tomorrow because now it's pleasure time. I'm not doing any work, okay? Because you don't want your work stress to carry over into your pleasure time. What you're also going to do is you're going to write down how much you're looking forward to what you're about to do. So you're going to write down, oh man, I'm going to watch YouTube. Write down all the stuff you're going to do, how you think you're going to feel. You're basically going to get your dopamine going like crazy when you do this because dopamine is an anticipation molecule. You're basically just building up the anticipation. You can also write down one thing you're proud of for that day because that's going to increase your pride, and pride multiplies pleasure. So you're going to feel even more anticipation then. And when you do this, you're going to feel so good. You're going to be like, oh my God, I can't wait to relax. Even if you had a day where you didn't get too much done, just remember that you would have got even less done if you had dotted bits of scrolling throughout the day. So, we're obviously not always going to have great days, but this was basically the best you could do. So when you do this, then the next day, you'll remember that anticipation, that feeling before you get the pleasure. and that will pull you through the day. In other words, you'll be productive. You'll be able to overcome your kind of impulses to scroll because you'll go, oh, I can't wait for the end of the day. That moment when I finish and I've just got time to relax, it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be worth it. Now, even with all this, it will still be a little bit difficult, but not once you make a habit out of it. So I have made a habit out of it, right? I don't have Instagram or TikTok on my phone, you know. I just work. I'm not gonna show my screen time because, I mean, you know what? Sure, I'll show it. I'll put a screenshot up. So I personally have gradually reduced my pleasure time over time. So now I've got maybe 15 minutes or so where I just eat cookies or brownies or chocolate and I listen to music. Generally, I try and eat dark chocolate because it's healthy, but whatever. And I just, you know, do that for like maybe 2 songs, 1 song at the end of the day. And, you know, right now I'm on a detox from that so that I don't get desensitized to it. So for a week, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, the point is that is enough for me, right? Now, you may not need to take it that far because I personally feel really good from working. It brings me fulfillment because I'm just making YouTube videos, right, to help you guys. But, you know, if you want to kind of have more free time and relax more, maybe you want to have more than just like 15 minutes at the end of each day. Maybe you want to have 3 hours, and you can absolutely do that. But when you make a habit out of this, so you just slowly chip away at it, you reduce it over time, you push more and more back. Maybe you can't go all the way till like 6 p.m. before you start your pleasure time. Maybe you can only go till like midday. So maybe you want to do the whole morning, but then after that you work and scroll. You go back to your usual strategy, basically. You can do that. The point is you're gradually building up the time at the start of the day, which is uninterrupted work. And you're making a habit out of that. You have to stay consistent. And over time, you will get there. You become productive, not by overnight trying to do a ton of stuff, then failing and going back to your old routine. That's not going to work. Instead, you want to make steady, slow progress. Now, at the start, you are going to be not that productive because you're going to get really strong distraction cravings. And that's because we basically have an inbuilt distraction tempo in our brain. So right now, if you're picking up your phone to scroll every 5 minutes when you're working, right? If you actually think about it, for me, a while ago, it probably was close to every 5 minutes, but maybe every half an hour if I was actually locked in. But that means that every 5 minutes, even once your phone is in another room and you're actually doing this strategy now, you're going to get distracted. Your brain's going to go, oh, scrolling time, and it's going to pull you out of your work. But you just have to remember that's the beauty of this strategy. When you work uninterrupted over time, your brain is going to be able to think uninterrupted. Also, another quick note, when you're just starting, if you move all your pleasure time to the end of the day, there is a little risk that your corn consumption will increase because you'll go like, oh, I've got like 4 hours now of just relaxation. You know what I'm going to do. So just don't let it. Try to keep that to whatever it currently is and then gradually reduce it if you can. And I said at the start that this strategy is actually going to improve your relationships. Let me explain. A lot of people out there, they may not even be terrible scrollers, but they are terrible texters. If they get a text, they'll just pick it up and reply to them, even if they're in the middle of work, right? Used to be me. If I got a text, I'd reply, right? Or I'd just look at it. Actually, no, I wouldn't reply. I'd look at it, I'd read it, and I'd be thinking about that now, but I wouldn't reply because I want to seem cool. I don't want to reply too quick. I'd try and go back to work, but I'd be thinking about the text for the next 2 hours or on and off, right? What I do is I basically send a very short good morning text or whatever to my very, very close friends, if that. And then in the middle of the day, at lunch, that's when I actually reply to everyone who's texted me. And then at the end of the day, obviously my pleasure time, I would continue to text. But basically at lunch is when I'm having my texting conversations with people. And then I call people if I need to at the end of the day in my pleasure time. What that's doing is enabling me to have continuous high frequency texting conversations. So the conversations where you're both in the chat typing away to each other, because those are the things that increase or deepen connection. I don't know if you've ever had kind of a texting conversation, maybe with a girl or whatever, where you're texting back and forth and, you know, you reply every few hours and you text like that for like 2 weeks and it just doesn't go anywhere. And by the end of it, you're feeling sick of it. And you can only imagine how sick of it the girl is if you're getting sick of it. This is because when you reply every few hours, like, let's be real, there's not much connection going on. When you reply instantly, like as you're in chat, you're gonna, become close with that person. And when you have all this pleasure time at the end of the day, you can actually do that. And other people as well are probably going to be like, oh, I'm sick of working, I'm just going to have pleasure time as well. So they're also going to be replying more. And so at the end of the day, you're going to have these conversations that deepen connection, and you're going to be more productive during the day. People are not going to miss you texting every couple hours during the day if you're actually replying to them more in the afternoon, because like you're having deeper connections, right? People like it more. So just for one day, tomorrow in fact, I want you to look at your current screen time average for the week. I want you to subtract that from your bedtime. That is the time you're going to stop work tomorrow. Congratulations, you've got way less work than normal, right? Essentially. What you're going to do is you're not going to really go on your phone before that. You're just going to quickly reply to people at lunchtime or whatever. And if you can't make it all the way to whatever time that will be, you'll still at least go a couple hours, hopefully, of just deep work. And that is going to increase your productivity, that's going to increase your pride, and that's going to increase your pleasure. And that is going to increase your productivity the next day. And so you're going to be a happier person, you're going to have deeper relationships, and you're going to get more work done, I hope. So I hope this helped. Have a great day.